All right, how y'all doing today? We about to hop into a little reaction. The first things first, I just want to make sure y'all like that video up. You know what to do. It's in full screen. Scroll a bit, like it, and then full screen it back up. You feel me? So today's video we got is coming from Sharik Khan. I don't know if that accentual statement was necessary, but you know I threw it on there. I feel like it makes it sound cooler. Anyway, not to say they ain't cool without it, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Anyway, so it's called "How to Share Jesus with Muslims from an Ex-Muslim." And if you wanna, don't before you run to the comments, one of my best friends right now is a Muslim man, right? I don't have anything against Muslims. I actually, in fact, love talking with him about it because it's so hard to talk with normal friends about like worldly friends about stuff of my beliefs and all that type of stuff. But a Muslim, they understand from still a little different perspective, but to the overall they understand, or at least understand the concept of having religious values and sticking to those, and how having to navigate the world through that religious lens, right? Which is why I don't really care that he's a Muslim in the sense of, like, I know I would like to tell him about Jesus, but I don't know necessarily how to do so without being a little what's the word, incontinent. We'll look it up. Not the word I was looking for. I don't want to do it incontinently. Like, I don't want to do it uncontrolled. I would like to have it be controlled, but without being disrespectful or kind of, yeah, I think the word just be disrespectful, right? I just don't want to do it without being disrespectful or putting down his belief system and kind of thing, but just to point it out that it's kind of Jesus is the truth. But I know the important thing to do when trying to share your faith with somebody is not to attack their point of view, but more just to elevate your own to where they see the value in it, and maybe inspire them to go do some research on their own. Because when you attack theirs, the whole thing is just going to be framed through the lens of an attack. It's just going to be, well, he's attacking my beliefs, so I have to attack his back, and because he's attacking mine, that means he's not nice, and I don't want those beliefs anyway. Versus if you just tell the truth, like, hey, you're attacking my beliefs, I really don't appreciate that. Like, if you were just telling me your sides, and maybe I'll go research it, and maybe then I'll have some level of care about your beliefs, because came at it with respect. You just pointed out some things that I could go look into myself. I respect that. Just like somebody commented on one of my videos a little bit ago talking about the young earth creation problem, whatever the thing is, the young earth creationist heat evolution problem, heat problem, right? Commented super respectful about it. I looked it up. I still got to do my research into it and everything, but because he was respectful, I gave ear to the claim. A lot of what scientists will talk about, I won't really give ear to, because I'm like, yeah, well, one, you weren't respectful, and two, it's just like, I don't already believe it. But if you come at me respectfully, then I'm more willing to give ear to something that I already don't believe in, and to see, let's go check out the evidence for it and put it up against the evidence of mine, right? Because at the end of the day, we should always be seeking to be able to defend our faith as Christians, and that is important. Now, when it comes to Muslims specifically, right, they have a different lens through which they see the New Testament and the Old Testament too. Even like, it's same stories for the Old Testament, but a different lens. And I think that it's very easy to get into a very heated debate about the divinity of Jesus or the divinity of Muhammad when talking to Muslims, between Christians, and that discourse. So let's hear this. Like I said, I know he's gonna mention at some point that it's important to not attack their belief system, and I do agree with that. But let's see what else he has to say, coming from an ex-Muslim, so he should know pretty well.
My father came to this country with $60 in his pocket at the age of 19. He drove a cab in New York City to pay his bills, and one night he picked up my mom, and that single ride changed everything. He married that woman. He built a life from the ground up. He went from a taxi driver to a bank executive with a huge team underneath him. He watched the second plane hit the Twin Towers on 9/11, not on a screen, but from the street. Covered in panic and fear, he raised 3 kids. He built a family on his Islamic faith, and he's the one that paid our way through our school and our experiences with honor, strength, and conviction. And so when I started to wrestle with Jesus, it didn't feel like I was switching religions. It felt like I was betraying everything that my father had built. Like I was turning my back on the very legacy that gave me life, that gave me the freedom to even do this today. And so when you share the gospel with a Muslim, you're not just challenging a belief. You are confronting everything that they are in their skin, from A through Z, everything they're built on, their identity, their culture, their bloodline, fear of change, fear of rejection, legacy, eternal weight. And if you walk into this like it's just another conversation, you are not ready, okay? So this series isn't for people who just want to try evangelism, okay? This is for people who understand this very simple statement. If Jesus is the truth, silence isn't safe. It is selfish. Okay? And so you don't need to be a scholar. You don't need to be surrendered. You need to be holy and raw, and you need to be real. And so when I was still Muslim, I didn't need another person to tell me I was wrong, right? That would put up so many walls and so much resentment for those people. I didn't need someone quoting scripture at me to win a debate, okay? I needed someone to sit with me. And that person ended up being my fraternity vice president. And he didn't bring me a sermon. He brought me Whataburger. He brought me chicken strips and ranch dressing. Great combination, by the way. But we would sit and he would listen. And he not once flinched at my questions. He not once disrespected my background. He just kept showing up, steady, honest, and unshaken. That man was the definition of my now favorite verse, 1 Peter 3:15. Always be ready to give a reason for the hope that is within you, but do so with gentleness and respect. And it worked, because I saw something inside of him that I didn't have, and that was peace without performance. It was a genuine presence of I am taken care of. And most Muslims don't reject the gospel because it doesn't make sense. We reject it because we are terrified to our bones that it might be true. And if it is true, we know what it's going to cost. It's going to cost our family's trust. It's going to cost our place in our community that we've sown into for decades. It's going to cost us our name. My name is Sharik Khan. People are surprised to hear I'm Christian. And maybe even our lives in some countries.
I got his name wrong, which is funny because after the last video, I was like, oh, I'm usually pretty good at counting people's names on a first try, right, with Lila Rose. But I guess it failed here today. Anyway, let's continue. Actually, no, before I resume, right, he did mention I don't need another person telling me I'm wrong, and then he brings up 1 Peter. Should always have a reason to defend our faith, right? Both 2 points I hit on because they're very important. It's important to be able to tell not even just Muslims, but any single person why you believe what you believe and be able to defend it in a slight way, but also do it peacefully. Because as Christians, we're called to always be joyful, always rejoice, always pray, right? And with always being rejoiceful, right? We see everything discipline coming from God. Therefore, it's a good thing because he's trying to train us. Therefore, even when bad happens in our life, it should be well enough to be seen as good. Right, our faith should be strong enough to see that bad stuff as good stuff. We just can't see the end goal, right?
But I wasn't afraid of the theology. I was afraid of walking away from everything my father had given me and ending up alone. And that's the kind of fear you have to love somebody through. You can't fix it and you can't out-argue it. You just need to be present enough to walk with them through it. And so I want to share a lot of the things that I really was thinking of, the limiting beliefs I needed to let go of to actually get where I'm at today, and what my fraternity vice president, Aaron, did that actually helped me. And so the first thing was I didn't need a lecture, and I definitely did not want a debate. I wanted somebody to ask, and I needed somebody to ask, what was your story, Sharik? What are you really afraid of? What does real peace even look like to you? And nobody ever asked me those questions. Maybe write those down if you're watching this, until one man did. Okay, Sharik, what are you really afraid of? What does real peace even look like to you? And nobody ever asked me those questions. Maybe write those down if you're watching this, until one man did. Okay, and that's when the door really cracked open for me. And the thing about me was when I was sport debating these Christians in college, every Christian I met, I was subconsciously and actually very consciously testing them. I was like, do these people actually believe what they say, or are they ironically wearing some plastic cross around their neck, right? Do they compromise when things get hard? Do they pray when nobody's watching? Because I needed to know, if I give up everything for Jesus, will he really be enough? Will he really be able to provide this life that I've craved so deeply? And if your life doesn't answer that question, your words are not going to land with that Muslim person, okay? And so I knew the rules about it, but I never really felt clean. And so every night when I was begging out to Allah to forgive me, not out of love, but out of fear that I would be dying in my sin, that I would die in my sin. So when somebody finally told me, hey, dude, Jesus didn't come to make you religious. He came to take your shame on himself. That didn't feel like a doctrine. That felt like freedom. As somebody who'd been burdened and buried in his sin and buried in his shame, all of a sudden there's a way out and I don't have to do anything to earn it. That sounds like gospel to me. And so if someone had not honored my previous faith, if they had insulted Muhammad or my previous life, if they had insulted who I was, I would have shut that door and I would have locked it for life out of pride, okay? And even when I had doubts, I still carried loyalty because that's what I was raised in. It's all I knew how to do. And so you don't need to start there with confronting the pain and the fallacy of Islam. You need to start with Jesus. Everything is onto Jesus. Show me the one who forgives his killers. Show me the one who speaks with authority and walks into compassion. Show me the one who looked at me at my lowest point and he didn't even flinch. That is what reached me. And so if you can invite this kind of conversation gently but really boldly into these people's lives, you'll have moments that you can't forget, right? Like I couldn't forget this moment when my fraternity brother looked me in the eyes and said, hey man, if you ever want to read the Gospel of John, I'd be honored to do that with you. And he bought me lunch because of it. So no pressure, no manipulation, just invitation to be to sit with us. And I didn't say yes right away, but I never forgot that offer. And months later, I took that offer. It planted a seed God would water later. When everything else fell apart, I knew that I didn't have the conviction that I had actually given this the attention it deserved. So let them feel the fire behind your love. And remember that they're not going to want to leave Islam to rebel, and they didn't want to follow Jesus to disrespect their family, right? Like, I followed him because I was in the dark. And Jesus really was the one who answered. And when he did, everything that used to terrify me suddenly looked extremely small next to his voice. And so if you want to share the gospel with Muslims, you have to look at yourself first. And you have to be a mirror of the living God. You have to live clean. You have to listen deep. You have to take in your daily bread. You speak slow, but you love hard. And be ready, because you may be the only picture of Jesus they will ever see. You may be the first time that they get that chance, and for them, it's a very sensitive moment. And if you do it right, you won't need to win some kind of argument. You'll win the heart. And always remember, y'all, he who the Son sets free is free indeed. That's John 8, okay? I love you guys. I wanted to share this story because I'm gonna be getting into this 90-day series, a video every day for 90 days. And so I was thinking and I was praying into this, and I thought, man, maybe it's time to share what it actually took for me to become a strong Christian, okay? And it has nothing to do with theological like debates and these like, I'm so against this, as you guys know, but these like 20-second out of context TikTok clips of these gotcha questions. If you guys remember my last video, we really tore into that. But I need you guys to remember that like these things are real belief systems, and there's real people involved with real emotions and real feelings. And so you cannot take this lightly. You are playing with somebody's salvation. And so for the people who come here on fire to this channel, who do have a deep, deep heart for the Muslim world out there, especially in third world countries, you guys have to understand that there is a real danger. There's a real, a threat to their lives when they want to leave Islam. And it not only comes physically, like you could physically get punished, but emotionally and spiritually, these people will be absolutely drained if they are not discipled and shared with properly by somebody who could walk with them for years if that's what it takes. Okay, so I wanted to start this video here. I love you guys. Please hit that subscribe button. It's going to be somewhere here on the screen. I wanted to show you guys that because I really want to do this full time, and you guys have been showing me insane support, and God bless you guys and God bless this channel. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.
And that is beautiful, right? That's the simplest way. That's not even just for Muslims, right? Obviously Muslims, like I said at the beginning, they come at a sense of life. We can talk with them and have a sense of religiosity in our lives and have that shared interest of like looking at the world through a religious lens and having to shape yourself to fit within the world without being ostracized and punished too severely to where you can't function, right? Even though if that's what you're called to do, that's what you're called to do. But there's a level of like, you have to know when you can say certain things and do certain things, because you're going to get looked at differently. You're going to get judged differently. And all these things, you know, it's just built on what being religious looks like in this day and age and in this country, at least in America. And then, you know, if you're Christian in a Muslim country, you definitely got to hide that junk, because like it's just different over there. Like he said, right? He didn't want to be ostracized from his family, his community, all that type of stuff. I've heard about stories. But overall, when sharing the gospel with anybody, it's just, how is the example of you living your life? So many times when you talk to people about it, they're going to get mad and they're going to get angry and all that. And it's like, when you can stay calm and level-headed, one, that's going to piss them off. I'm also sorry if some people think piss is a swear word. I don't see it as a swear word. I know some people do. One of my Catholic professors, I said pissed off in class, and he was like, we're not going to swear in class. I don't know if pissed is a swear word for Christians, if it is or not. You guys can let me know what you think about it. Maybe I shouldn't say it if there's people that consider it, and I might, you know, whatever, cause my brother to stumble somehow by saying it, or maybe you'll think differently because of me because I said it. I don't know. You let me know in the comments. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say. But like, if you ever talk to somebody and they're super heated and you're super calm, you know, it gets them madder because you're not feeling the emotions that they're feeling, kind of showing like, they may be thinking you think you're better than them. They may be thinking like, oh, I'm losing because my emotions are high and all this type of stuff. And I'm getting emotional, which means I'm getting triggered. And they're laughing at me, and they're in silence and in their head. And it gets them kind of annoyed. But when you can do that, but you can also come at it with forgiveness, saying, oh, I can see that you're a little bit worked up. Do you want to take a break from the conversation right now? And like, we can calm down and we can hear about it after. They may see that as more condescending. So you got to find a healthy balance of like, hey, I don't think this conversation is very fruitful right now. I'd still love to talk to you about it because I love hearing your points, right? And as James said, we got to listen twice more than we speak, because I think it's really about the more that they can get out their side, the better they're going to feel about your side. Because it's like, hey, I gave you like your time, and then I actually love those points because I've actually done some research into them. I'm not super familiar, but, you know, I'd love to take the time to look into them a little bit more. However, can I share with you some of my points? And then they're like, yeah, sure, you can share with me some of your points. And like, wonderful, because I'd like to hear and get your opinion on these things. And then, you know, you do it in a slow, calm way, they're going to be more receptive to it because you're not, you know, I don't want to say you're getting them mad, but like you're not getting them mad by talking in a slow, calm manner or whatever. And they should be pretty calm because you're pretty calm, right? You reciprocate energy in a conversation, right? If you're having a humorous conversation, chances are you want both people to be laughing. If you're mad, chances are you're ranting, you want somebody else to get mad with you, right? And I think we read that in one of the Proverbs verses a little bit ago. Don't necessarily remember, but oh yeah, we did. Where it was saying we're so quick to believe the first person whose story we hear. We hear that story and then we start thinking negative thoughts about somebody else, and then we match the emotion of the person who's telling us the story when we should want to hear both sides first and show impartiality and not be biased. But too little that happens in real life, right? So it's all about just being calm and let your example be, or your life be, an example of Christ, like we're told to do in the Bible. Let him walk through you, let him speak through you, let him act through you. Every single thing you could have, let it be a vessel for Christ. And I'll admit it hard at points, right? Don't get on here and see me talking about it and think I'm living this perfect life, bro. I crashed out over what game is that? It's some game, Balderdash, I think. It's where you like, you get a letter and you have to think of a bunch of words that start with that letter on a list and whatever. And I crashed out because people were saying my word didn't count or whatever. So I low-key crashed out. Low-key. I wasn't like mad at anybody, but I was just like, all right, y'all ignoring me, I'm literally gonna leave. Like, cause I was kind of yelling about my point. Cause I'm like, this is true. I Googled it and everything and I had proof. But a lot of times, right, I should have just been like, you know what? You guys agreed, let's move on. It's not that serious. It's just a game. Let's have fun. Right? That's what I should have did, but in the moment I didn't have the emotional maturity to do that. So, you know, I'm not perfect by any means. Trust and believe. I crashed out of a freaking board game. You know, but in terms of spreading the gospel, we want to keep that strong. But if you're like me and you can't even keep your calm at a game, you know, sometimes a debate where they might attack not only your beliefs and your character based on your beliefs, but they might attack you as a person and say things like you're homophobic, you're misogynistic, you're all these things, right? These are things I've heard, some of them from my own brothers, right? And granted, from my brothers, it wasn't in a hateful way, it was more in a joking way. And I'm just like, that's just my belief system, and I really can't change that because I believe that this is true. And they believe it's true to some extent, but not the same extent that I do, right? They are Christian, but not as Christian. Like, if you can measure Christianity, right? Because I don't think you can measure it, but if you can measure Christianity, they're not as Christian as me. They don't care. They definitely don't care the same as me. They don't have the same relationship with God as I do. Not to say my relationship is perfect or my relationship is one of the strongest, right? But I will say I'm trying to actively work to make my relationship better, hence the point of this channel. And my brothers, you know, they're on their way. They're on their way there for sure. But they're where they are where I was. And I can see that. And it's just my job to be patient with them and to answer the questions when happened. Like, I had a conversation with my brother over an hour. He watched the sermon and had some questions for me and everything because he know I have a channel. He knows I read the Bible. He knows I study and everything. So he had some questions with me. I stayed on the phone with him for an hour just talking and listening and answer his questions, just like bro said in the video to do. And because at the end of the day, that's all we can do is we can just answer questions and make everything seem better on this side, because it is, but like seem better and seem true, right? So the Bible says we're going to get this peace. We got to be proof that we got this peace and not living in our flesh anymore, because we're set free from that. And that's the power of Jesus. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.